Since I'm not able to read regular music, because if it were to be enlarged, then there would be just a lot of visual clutter because of all the rhythms and all the measure beats that the other kids see. It would just be too much visual clutter and having to look at the letters at the same time. So what my mother did is that she came up with this system of reading large print letters, and for the volume, for when I get loud, it's orange, and when I get quieter, it's green, and medium volume on the cello is yellow. And she does that to avoid all the visual clutter, and she came up with this new system of reading musical letters in large print, so I wouldn't have to memorize each note, whereas before she came up with this system, I was basically learning all Suzuki, all memorization of every note.
Okay, years ago when Miriam first started playing cello, a couple years later we discovered a need for Miriam to be able to connect to her music as opposed to being true Suzuki, which is learning by repetitive listening. As the piece would get more complicated, Miriam needed a way to connect to her music that she could be independent with it. So over time I started using letters in place. So Miriam can't see the staff or the notes because of the visual clutter. So we removed the staff. I use the alphabet, the letters, the A through G, that she will play, and we developed a language for her, her own music, using letters of different capital, italicized, colors represent, in this case, we've got purple to represent sharps. And just having, and because the addition of a pound sign or hashtag, again, adds too much visual clutter and kind of starts to defeat the purpose of simplicity. So we have colors that indicate accents, and I will put notations in here for fingerings when she goes through her lessons. The A and different markings, so she knows if she's playing with a group and they say let's start at B, she can easily find that. And it's really specific to Miriam what she finds. Like, she chose the colors. To her, green was piano and orange was forte. To me, green means go. I want to go loud. So it really was important that Miriam tell me what makes sense to her. So the size of the letter, the capital represents a half note. This is a whole note because it has a black line under it that turns a half into a whole note. Quarter notes are represented by lowercase, and there are no eighth notes in here, but they would be italicized in Roman. That's a font that we chose that she could see. Staccato and different markings, dynamics are represented. Sforanzo here, it's loud, soft. When you blast a note and go softly, that's that box with the red-green. And I've discovered I will create some of these things that make perfect sense to me, but when you're visually impaired, they may not make as much sense. So this has been a work in progress, and I use about 3 different programs, a mishmash. I go back and forth. It's very laborious, but very much worth it. This allows Miriam to practice on her own. We use a program called Fourscore. She uses a wireless foot pedal, so she can change pages at her pace. Here, ×2, that's a long marking that shows she's going to repeat that passage 2 times. Her letters are so big, it's about a 60 to 70 font, but any smaller and she cannot see it easily. I can't crowd the page because, again, it becomes visual clutter and she loses track. So one single page of music, standard music, with not too complicated, becomes about 4 to 6 pages of Miriam's music. So she really needed a vehicle like with the iPad Pro and the foot pedal where she could move through the pages at her pace quickly, and then in a case where they repeat, Miriam's just continues. She never goes back because she couldn't possibly quickly find a place in the music. So everything moves forward.